Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Red Hour, a show I do twice a week where I throw a little chaos into Star Trek by doing a random episode review. Uh, Today's review is Deep Space Nine, Season 3, Episode 8, Meridian. And so last time, um, Sunday, when I picked out the episode, I couldn't remember what it was. And now, and then as soon as I went off the air, I remembered. Yeah, so I've seen this one before. Last time, uh, so it starts off with Kira and Odo on the promenade, and Kira's getting a coffee. I presume a rappuccino. She doesn't say, but they're talking about the coffee and why Odo asks her why she likes it so hot, and she says that she wants to relish it. You know, it takes time to cool down. You gotta, uh, you know, you can smell the fumes and stuff like that. And then she asks Odo if he had ever ate before, even though he doesn't have to eat. And he says that he tried it once and it didn't work out and it was a mess. So then this alien guy comes up to them and starts talking to Kira, and he had seen her the night before at Cork's bar, and she left just as things were getting interesting. And he's basically trying to, like, talk to her, hook up with her, and she doesn't want, she doesn't like him, and she basically says, Odo starts to leave, and she's like, no, you sit down and stay. This is my lover, Odo. And then they talk for a little bit, and then the alien guy, I think his name is Taran or something, and he walks away and leaves, and that's like the teaser. So after the credits and the theme, we're on the Defiant, and it's the commander's log. Basically, they're in the gamma section or quadrant, and he's basically gotten permission from Starfleet to do more exploring, because right now the Dominion, there's no Dominion activity, and of course this is prior to the Dominion War. So they're doing exploration, like standard Star Trek type stuff that you would see the Enterprise do, or Voyager, or whatever. And they're in a star system where there's like gravimetric disruptions, and they can't figure out what it is. And then all of a sudden, like, this planet just kind of ripples and appears out of nowhere, and the planet, like, scans the ship, and they do their own scans, and it turns out that there's only like 30 humanoids on the planet, and the people on the planet hail the Defiant. And so basically, they're like interdimensional beings, and their planet sort of goes in and out of corporeal state, and they do too. So then they don't know how it happened, but they think it has something to do with their sun. Like something there's some problem with the sun that's causing this planet to go in and out of their dimension. So when they're in the dimension in the gamma quadrant that we're in, that our heroes are in, they're in a corporeal state. They're like humanoid, and when they go back, they are in a non-corporeal state. So they go down to the planet and they're eating dinner, and Dax is sitting next to this guy who's kind of flirting with her. He's like, "I like your spots," and asks her, "Do they go all the way down?" And she's like, "Yes, they go all the way down." And so they're just kind of talking, and they're explaining how every 60 years is when they come back to like the humanoid form. So, and then Dax is eating some sort of fruit, and this dude like shows her how to pick it apart, and so they're kind of flirting with each other. And then back on the station, that guy visits Cork, and he doesn't like the holosuite that program that Cork had initially sold him, and Cork's like, "There's no refunds." He wants a custom program of Kira, basically so he can have sex with her, because that's basically what a lot of people use the holodecks or holosuites for. So that's his plan, and so they make a deal, and of course it costs extra, but Cork agrees to it. So back on the planet, Dax is talking with this guy, and their population is basically explains that their population is dwindling, and eventually it's going to. They were stranded there. It's not even their planet. They were like on a survey or whatever, and were stranded there, and haven't been able to leave since. And their population is dwindling, and the planet is like, eventually they're going to come down to zero. So they want to figure out a way to be able to fix the situation, essentially. So back on the station, Quark is trying to like trick Kira into going to the holosuite, because he mentions that she doesn't like holosuites, which later on we see her in the holosuites, like doing things with Dax. So that kind of, maybe she warmed up to it later on, because that's when they meet Worf. Is they're both dressed up like married maidens or whatever, and but he's trying to take pictures of her, or no, he's trying to trick her into going into the holosuite. He basically comes up with this scheme where she's like his 1 millionth customer, and she wins like a prize for a free holosuite program and this glass of, or a bottle of like champagne or something, and something else. And she's like, "Oh, I'll just give it to Ensign so and so. He's been wanting to use the holosuite." So that plan backfires, and then back on the planet, there's like gamma bursts that they're anomalies, like, so they're I guess they're, the Defiant is in orbit, so they're kind of doing scientific research to kind of help these people. And there's like gamma bursts, anomalies in the star's fusion cycle, and they send a probe. And then Dax is like again flirting with this guy, and she's like, well, there's gonna be a while before the telemetry comes back on this if you want to go hang out, and so they um they sneak off and they go. They're back on the planet, like hanging out in some garden, and there's a tree there, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go climb this tree?" And she's hesitant at first, and he's like, "In eight lifetimes, you've never climbed a tree?" And she says something like, "Well, that's how you avoid injuries," or something like that. And so they climb the tree, and they're looking out at the field, and she's kind of nervous, and then they start to kiss, and then she almost falls, and he catches her, and she's like, "Why don't we go back down?" So they go back down, and there's like this pond. He picks some berries for her, and they sit and they're talking, and then they start making out, and I assume they had sex. They don't show that, but anyway. So then the telemetry comes back, and it turns out the gamma bursts aren't causing the shift. So, and then Cisco teases her. He's like, "Hey, you want to come back up on the ship to, do some more research?" And she's like, "No, I've got it. I think we're fine down here." And they kind of laugh, and O'Brien kind of laughs. So then Dax, this guy wants to go back to, his room or his house or whatever and fool around some more, and she wants to figure out what's going on. So she wants to check more data. And it turns out that the fusion reactions or fusion reactants in the star are out of balance, and that's what's causing the shift. So back on the station, Quark is trying to film Kira, and while she's talking to Odo, and he's like, "Odo, get out of the way! You're messing up the shot." He's got like his little hollow camera or whatever, so it can make the program, and they see him doing this and confront him. And he tells a lie. He says that there's people that want to do simulations of like the bridge or whatever they call the command center. Sorry. They want to pretend to be fighting Klingons or whatever, and so I'm trying to get your likeness so they can do that, and they call out his bullshit, and they know it's a bullshit story, and she threatens him, and she's like, basically, "I'm gonna shove this thing up your ass" or something like that, and throws his camera away. Then back on the planet, Dax says their plan will work. So doesn't say what the plan is, but their plan will work, but it's going to take a long time. So, because they want to be together. Because this guy says, "Well, I'm thinking of building a house now, for two people," and basically he's like saying, "I know that we just met and we're just crazy, but I can now make plans and stuff." And she's like, "Well, it's going to take a long time, so by the time you come back in 60 years, that's when the plan, that's when we'll have everything ready to fix the sun." And so he says that he'll just go with her and join her in the Alpha Quadrant. And so they're happy, and that's what they you know. Oh, and the leader of the planet says, she's happy because now that they can have families again. And then back on the ship, she's in her quarters with Bashir. And on the Defiant, it's like bunk beds, and they're small. It's not important, just something that I noticed because they don't show them that often on Deep Space Nine. But the Defiant is a smaller ship. So Bashir's there, and he's kind of talking about Tongo and how Quark is going to be upset because he was letting you win, and she's like, he doesn't let me win. And then so homeboy shows up, and he basically says he's got to go back to the planet for some final goodbyes and stuff. Then back on the station, this Terran and Quark are like discussing how it's taking too long for Quark to get this program together. And Quark is like, I've my reputation is on this, so it's hanging on this. So, I guarantee you're gonna love it. He's, basically used car salesman. Just selling them on this idea. And so he's got this idea that he's going to steal some information, some files from Odo's office that has like all of Kira's presumably like her dimensions. We'll put it that way. And all the files and stuff. And then Kira comes into Odo's office, and Odo explains what's going on, and he's like, do you want me to arrest him, or do you want to do it? And she's like, no, I've got other plans. Let's mess with him a little bit. So then, back on the planet, Dax is explaining Tongo to the guy, and he's basically not listening. He's got other things on his mind. She deduces that he wants to stay on the planet, and he's like, she says, you're worried about your people, aren't you? And he's like, yeah, they kind of need me now. And I don't know, I guess this guy is a scientist or something. It's not really clear. But I guess they're all some sort of scientists because they were stranded there on some sort of trek through the stars. Some sort of Star Trek. They're sort of like scientists, just like our crew, But, so Dax basically had talked to Bashir, and they figure, like, through the transporter, she can phase with them so that she can go with them when they shift and become non-corporeal. And so that's her plan. So Dax is like requesting a leave of absence, and that's when Cisco walks in, and he's like, I don't think Starfleet's ever had a 60-year leave of absence. And they're kind of like, Cisco's kind of questioning it a little bit. It's like, if it was Curzon, I could not, the last time I talked about Deep Space Nine, I could not think of Curzon now, and I don't even have it written down. But it's like, I hate that. It's like, when I need it, it's not there. It's like the police. It's like, when you need them, they're not there. When you don't, they're always around. So anyway, Curzon Dax, if it was him and he wanted to just met somebody and wanted to just like fuck off and disappear, he would, or Cisco would, have something to say about that. And she's like, and you would be right to, but I'm not him, and this is a different situation. And he's kind of like, okay, well, I'm happy for you. And he's about to cry a little bit, and people are gonna say, or people have said to me that if Deep Space Nine was now, that I'd be complaining about Cisco crying. I'm like, because I complain about Discovery crying. It's like you don't even understand context. And I'm complaining about people that aren't even going to watch this video, or this stream. But it's like, it's not everything is one for one situation. But anyway, I'm not going to go on a big rant about all that right now. But I just think about stuff like that. When I watched this episode, I thought about that, and I'm like, I've had to explain in the past. Here's something that's stupid that was done on Discovery, and they'll be like, well, here's something, the same exact thing happened in TNG or whatever, and you're complaining about it. You have cognitive dissonance, you have not self-aware. It was stupid then and it's stupid now. Both times it was stupid. Anyway, the rant over. So they say their goodbyes, and so back on the station, the guy goes into the holosuite. And at first, it's like a chick's body, but it's Quark's face, and so that's what Kira and Odo did to the program. And he gets pissed off and he runs away, and that's pretty much the end of that. And he doesn't pay, because the deal was that he's not going to pay until sees the final result. And so Quark is all pissed off about that. And then back on the ship, Dax kisses Bashir on the lips or on the cheek, and he says something like, I'm a loss for words, and she says, well, this will be the first time. And then they go to the transporter. She transports down, and because it's almost time for the shift. And then back she transports down, the shift starts happening, they're shifting but she's not, and there's something wrong. And basically Dax's presence is like messing things up. So this is a straight up, classic Star Trek type episode where you're exploration, you're exploring a new world. There's a new scientific thing going on with these interdimensional things, and new concept, or at least new at the time. It's a nice episode. It's kind of the B plot is kind of funny. It's Quark doing his Quark stuff, and it's nothing that mind blowing. It's not like in the pale moonlight or whatever. But it's a nice little light-hearted episode with Dax and a love interest, and I mean, television back then and still today is people can fall in love in like 5 seconds, but sometimes it does kind of happen that way. I mean, you have a little fling, but this would turn into like a 60-year fling, and I don't think in reality it wouldn't work out. I mean, you've known this person for like a few days, and then you're gonna disappear with them for 60 years. But otherwise, a decent episode. A 7 out of 10. I was gonna give it a little bit higher, but then I felt like um, you got to compare it to like other things that I mean, there's a lot of episodes of Star Trek, and so I'm trying to keep like an inventory in my head. Um, how well that's working, I don't know, but all right. So it looks like there are people in the chat. So let's say hello to them. We have Gavin Blackburn. Hello, Daddy. Hello, lurkers. I see you. And this is a bit of a filler. It's a bit of filler. But it's okay filler. It's not horrible filler. I don't know what comes next, what the next episode is, other than it's episode 9. But we're leading towards the beginning of the Dominion War. So it's kind of a let me get my sci-fi in before we get to the war. So that's cool. But I'm going to do I'm going to do my review of Strange New Worlds, Season 3, Episode 6, and that'll be all filler was good filler back then. Yeah, I mean, mostly. So that's going to be next. So I'll take a break, and then I'll come back at 9 and do the Strange New Worlds review. But let's get to the point of the night where not much to say about this episode, other than the commentary of like what in real life that wouldn't work. And not much else. So we're still on Meridian, and I didn't screw that up. And we're going to press the randomize button. And as I've said multiple times, the universe really wants me to do Voyager reviews. So we're at Voyager Season 2, Episode 4, Elogium. Have no clue. I try not to watch the first 3 seasons of Voyager, so I'm more familiar with once they bring on 7. So I'm going to guess it's not a good one, but maybe surprise me. Maybe it'll surprise me. Anyway. So I want to thank Gavin Blackburn for showing up tonight. Good to see you, buddy. And anybody that's lurking, anybody that watches this in the future, thank you very much. I will be back. I'll be back for the Red Hour on Sunday, and then I'll be back at 9 for my review of Strange New Worlds Season 3, Episode 6, I don't remember how the Losette that ate its tail. I want to try to get the Strange New Worlds in sooner like closer to the day that it airs, but it's been kind of hard to do that lately. Anyway, that's it for me. I'll see you guys